Robby.
Welcome to another just tremendous, artisanal, dare I even say, handcrafted episode of Midlife Krisis. It is so good to be back here in the original format, the original, we'll call it configuration. Now, as you can see, I'm going to remove some of this junk, but I'm going to keep some of this junk. It's very important. So, I wanted to get this done today because, quite frankly, I'm kind of tired of all the doom and gloom going on in the video game industry. Yeah. Little bit of housekeeping, which is funny. We could briefly talk about this. We did an episode recently where we talked about like what are we looking for in video games in 2024, and you sprung up on me this question, which is a fair question, obviously, but like. Because I like weird games, which more on that later. But a specific kind of weird, like a thinking man's weird, if you would. But also like not weird for weirdness' sake, but just something that's like outside of the box, whatever cool cliche phrase you want to say. Okay. But you said, what's a game like that had come out recently that really grabbed your attention in that way? And what I should have said was fucking Hi-Fi Rush. Because it did. It was super original. It was awesome in every single way. Like, super good art style, legitimately laugh out loud funny. Such a nice, tight, little, compact experience. I think it took me like maybe 9 hours to beat the whole thing. And at no point was there a lull in that game. And original, unique, great, excellent. Microsoft kills that studio. Which is just, of course. Of course you would. And the rumor is that they being Microsoft, they were being pitched a sequel to that game. Yeah. And I don't know if you followed along with this stuff of Aaron Greenberg last year. Did you read his tweet about? No. So he tweeted out, and you can Google this, it's fantastic, but they basically said, like, we are extremely pleased with how Hi-Fi Rush has performed, so on and so forth. And, like, so they canceled that, they canceled the sequel, obviously, because the studio's no more. And then they go and say, like, a day later, talking about how like what we need is these prestige award-winning titles. So I didn't know this until I was reading into it, but Hi-Fi Rush won a BAFTA. Not like a fucking Jeff Keighley Baldur's Gate You're So Great bullshit award. They won like a real award.
Congratulations, Larry.
Yeah. They won an actual bona fide award.
A real award.
Yeah.
One of the awards that counts.
Exactly. So a little bit of heartbreaking piece of news there. But,
it is very frustrating. I hope the rest of the industry turns as well. Yeah. I know that's not what this episode is about, but since the topic is out there, I am officially now against Phil Spencer. Like, he's got to go. He's been not great with Microsoft. Yeah. And closing down that studio, it's like, I understand closing down the studios for the games that didn't do well, even though you yourself are partially responsible for those games not doing well. But closing down a studio like Hi-Fi Rush that produced the best and only exclusive you guys have been able to put forth in the last 5 years is
10 years. I'd say 10 years.
You know, it's like, and then to close that studio down, it's like, what else are you bringing to the table, guys?
Not a whole lot.
What else is out there?
And so I'll point, this is, so I'm giving credit where it's due. Ryan McCaffrey, who we brutalized on the show for giving such
especially.
Yeah, for giving such
say whatever you're going to say so I can shit all over it.
No. This article is really good and offers a lot of insight. But what we're shitting on clearly is he has bad taste in games because he gave Alien Isolation such a low score. But what he said in this article, it's on IGN now, where he did a lot of like talking to like original Xbox people that were kind of there in the beginning and what the original spirit of what it was. Yeah. And like the consensus is like, well, it's no longer Xbox games. This is like a Microsoft games thing. I saw that too, yeah. And so like the conversation going around now is about like how they were so guns blazing with this Activision merger. And just personally speaking, like I haven't been interested in Call of Duty or any of their properties, with the exception of like, fucking Pitfall or something.
Activision properties.
Yeah, Activision properties or Blizzard properties or any of that stuff. I haven't cared about it in years. So like I never understood like obviously I understand like the value of Call of Duty, but even that, we've seen it kind of jump off of a cliff in terms of popularity and prestige in the last 5 years-ish. It seemed, and this article points this out, like this merger and the level of it and the amount of money that was invested in this merger could very easily be the downfall of the Xbox brand as we know it. Because of all these other factors that they didn't really consider, like how much it was actually going to cost, how much time it was going to take in terms of getting it done legally.
Almost 2 years.
Yeah, and some time and resources that could have been sunk into making fucking video games. Imagine that. So when you say, like, I blame Phil Spencer, like, I'm not going to stand in front of that train because I don't know the guy. And quite frankly, he's always kind of come off to me as like I'm one of you guys, man. I'm just one of you, bro. Blazer, t-shirt, just like what you wear, just the same.
Turns out it wasn't true.
Yeah, turns out. But at the same time,
I was wrong to believe it.
Mark
behavior.
Mark behavior, certainly. But it might not be as markish as Mark behavior as we're talking about, because it does kind of seem like, and the article points this out, like these are kind of decisions that seem like they're coming up on the tippy top levels of Microsoft, where it's almost a way that they're punishing Xbox as a brand, because Microsoft's stocks right now they're soaring. They're doing really, really well.
Because of everything other than their gaming division.
Yeah. So like this is kind of normal, big, giant, disgusting, like global business type behavior, is to be like, well, we're doing really good. How can we do better?
Yeah, of course.
Let's kill people.
We have 5 different divisions or whatever they have, and 4 of them are doing record profits. We're now like a $2 trillion company or whatever it is. Then there's this pygmy thing over here in the gaming division, which is still profitable, just merely less profitable than everything else. So how can we cut stuff over here
to make the whole picture look better?
Yeah. So, and that's frustrating. And also, Phil Spencer gave an interview about a month ago where he sort of opened up a little bit, and he was like, well, look, if you don't have growth, then you have to cut expenses. That's the only way to make investors happy. And he did it in a way that was sort of, on the one hand, kind of transparent, because he's talking about the realities that usually gamers talk about, like, oh, everything for the shareholders. He's sort of acknowledging that reality, and usually you don't have that kind of transparency from corporate studio heads. On the other hand, he's doing it in a way that does exactly what you said, where he's like, oh, I'm one of you guys, and man, these corporate guys, this is what they demand. And also deflecting blame away from himself and his own poor decisions as being the reason that there is no revenue growth.
Right.
It's like, guy, you bought Bethesda 5 years ago. Redfall, that's on you. You're the studio head. You could have demanded the changes or delayed the game or did whatever. Starfield, same thing. So the fact that you've had 2 exclusives come out in the last year, neither of which were good, you don't have them lined up the way that they should be, despite the fact that you own all these different studios now, that's 100% on you. So it's kind of cold comfort to me to hear him say, like, man, what can you do? You know, these shareholders, they just want more profit. So you got to cut expenses. And there's no revenue there. It's like, well, yeah, but you're also kind of responsible for the fact that there's no revenue.
100%. So. And I think he's responsible, too, because of how, seemingly bullheaded he was about doing these giant acquisitions of these huge companies. Yeah. And Activision Blizzard being the tippy top.
Totally. Well, they looked out, they saw what Sony did, and they're like, yeah, well, that turns out that's a really good way to sell systems and to get market share and all that. And again, I told you this, it is the right strategy. Yeah. But you have to deliver the goddamn games.
Yes.
You buy the studios, that's cool, and they've got some good developers. Don't they own Rare?
Yeah, but to be Rare hasn't meant anything since the Xbox 360 and early into the Xbox 360. Like they did that Perfect Dark Zero game, which was a launch title, didn't do very well. Another launch title was Cameo, which again, like, what are you doing? The really important creative people that kind of founded Rare and worked on the big hits like GoldenEye, Banjo-Kazooie, all the Nintendo stuff, they had left the ship. Okay. And so Rare was kind of like relegated to working on Kinect stuff. And then they rebounded in some semi-recent times with Sea of Thieves, which I don't care about, but it's very popular. It's making money for them, and the people that do like it love it. Funny enough, I really think that Killer Instinct game that they did in 2013, Day being Microsoft, which Rare had nothing to do with at all. It was done by Iron Galaxy. I think that's a great game, but when you think Killer Instinct, people in our age group think of Rare.
Absolutely.
But yeah, Rare had nothing to do with that game at all. So, but yeah, Rare is no longer what the Rare that you and I grew up with. And I'm talking going back to RC Pro AM Rare, like that stuff and Battletoads,
Cobra Triangle.
Absolutely, they were up. They were breathing in Konami air in those days, and that's long gone. But I mean, this is just kind of where we are with that stuff, and all of this, friend, was a super long yet necessary segue for me to get into the topic of today, which is something that makes me very happy about video games.
That's like this is supposed to be the optimism episode.
So, what makes me so happy about video games in particular is a certain magical special fella by the name of Suda 51. So, I'm gonna blow your mind right now. Before I go on, go ahead and give me your thoughts on Suda 51's catalog. Here we go. All right. He's got it. Got a lot to say. Yeah. Also a big fan, knowledgeable fan about what we're talking about today.
Cool. Ask me about Elden Ring next.
Yeah. Okay. So I knew this was the flavor of this soup, so there's no surprise here. I don't think you've maybe heard about one or two of these games in the past. Maybe No More Heroes. You've heard that name, something like
Definitely,
that.
Yeah.
But for me, Suda51, whose real name is Goichi Suda, and so Suda51.
This is a person?
He's a person.
Not a fictional. So I thought it was actually like the main character.
Yeah. No, that would be Travis Touchdown.
Yeah.
Which we'll get into.
Not to confuse the two.
We will get into the weeds there. But so his real name is Goichi Suda, and then Go is the Japanese number 5, and then Ichi is number 1. So his name is a little nickname. Suda51 is like a play on his real name.
Okay.
So just to catch you up to speed. And so now I'm going to blow your mind here. I'm gonna go ahead and get a reaction here on this one. Right. I care so much about this guy and his work that I did notes.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
What episode is this, Brian? Episode 60?
No, we're in the 70s, friend. We are in the 70s. First notes I've ever done.
I am taking this super seriously now.
Well, no, so. Look, here's the deal. So I'm going to give you a little bit more background on this guy as we go.
It's not an insignificant number of notes, by the way.
I care a great deal about this guy and his work,
really,
and what his stuff like means to me, and really what I laser focus in on some of the games that affect me with an A to a great degree. I put this guy in the same company as a Hideo Kojima. I put him up there with literally the tippy top of like, this guy makes shit that appeals to me in such a way that I took fucking notes. So
you had my curiosity.
Okay.
Now you have my attention.
So let's go ahead and get on into this. I will start referencing my notes here like a real professional producer. So Suda51, a little bit of background on kind of like the broad strokes of what is kind of known or talked about with this guy. So he's often compared to Quentin Tarantino in terms of like his storytelling. So if you go back to Pulp Fiction, when Pulp Fiction first came out, it blew people's minds. Yeah. It instantly became like the darling of that year. It's 30 years old this year, and people still put that movie, and deservedly so, in really high esteem. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you remember this or not, but when it first came out, people didn't understand the storytelling, like how it was disjointed. It was very novelesque in a lot of ways, where like the timeline's jumping all over the place.
All the pop culture references too. All that stuff. Yeah.
So not every one of his games does that, but there's a little bit of that here and there throughout his catalog of work. But he really gets more compared to Quentin Tarantino because of the subject matter of his stuff. It's very, very mature. He deals with themes like violence, sexuality, like really high level, like surrealistic kind of stuff, blending in elements of horror, sci-fi, like just kind of all over the map. And when he describes his work and his ethos a lot, the term punk comes out a lot, and not punk like lagwagon or bullshit. Yeah, offense meant. Offense taken and giveth.
What is happening to this show?
What he means by punk, and I'm going to go ahead and quote. This is I'm quoting my notes here.
So good punk then, like no effects punk then.
Ooh, yeesh. You represent you, I'll represent me. Okay.
Fine. Blink 182.
Oh.
Oh, laughing at my own jokes.
Yeah, they're good. They're solid jokes. Okay. So by punk, it's more of an ideological sense, right? So he's very big on breaking the mold of accepted conventions and deliberately makes games outside of current trends.
Okay. So just like that's exactly what I think your DNA is.
Yeah. Like this guy says like, oh, what's really popular right now? Well, fuck that. I'm going to do what I want to do. Yeah. And if there's an audience for it, great. And if there's not, I'm happy. Okay. So there is an audience for this guy. He started in games in 1993 and he's still going strong.
Okay.
But a little bit more on the background of him. He's had some interesting jobs in his life. So he gets into video games because he was a graphic designer for Japanese Sega, like doing marketing. So it's like brochure stuff, magazine ads, that kind of stuff. And now that gives him a little foot in the door when it comes to games. But he's always been an obsessive game player in particular, which this theme is going to come back around. He was very heavily inspired by Western development, so European and American stuff.
Which not a lot of Japanese guys were,
no.
right?
And typically it's the exact opposite. Like it's, like
the Western guys are inspired by them.
Exactly. So for Suda 51, it's the inverse of that, which is kind of why his stuff really sticks out. And there's if I can, as I often do, quote the fine film Mr. Baseball starring Tom Selleck.
Any chance you get.
Any chance I get. There's a scene where the love interest, Tom Selleck's side piece in the fine country of Japan, illustrates like a lot of Japanese art is assimilation, taking in things from all over the world and putting their own unique spin on it. Yeah. And I think Suda 51 like exemplifies that stuff. Like he takes the influences from punk, pro wrestling. Big time, takes so much reference from fucking pro wrestling, which we'll get into in a second how that started, and just like movies and popular culture. He's also like really, really inspired by German author Kafka, who a reoccurring theme in his work is to take the most mundane shit, like the most like boring ass, mow the lawn, paint the walls, boring stuff, and put a surrealistic spin on it. And in a lot of Suda's games, he does the exact same thing, to the point where like it can be annoying. And for me, I sit back and I go, that's so cool that he's making me do this bullshit. But to other people, like he can be kind of challenging. It's like almost like a John Waters. Like there's art out there that like I would, even though like I love it, like I totally understand like you're, a normal person, a normal brain person seeing this kind of stuff and being like, absolutely not for me. And I totally understand it. But this stuff is for me, and that's why I'm talking about it today. So, before I move on with his body of work, which is where I'm headed next, do you have any questions for me before we dive in?
A couple, actually.
Please lay them down.
So first, you mentioned that he got his start in the early 90s in the games industry?
Yes.
Okay. And was he associated with any projects that we would have heard of? I think, and the reason I bring this up is because one time you and I talked about, who's that pockmarked dude that who used to be good and isn't now?
Oh, Itagaki, Team Ninja.
Okay, and he's...
Pockmarked dude. Fucking incredible. So Itagaki, for if you don't know who he is, Hironobu Itagaki made the first 3D Ninja Gaiden, which fundamentally changed 3D action games.
Yeah.
And the thing that comes to your mind is the pockmark guy. I would have also accepted, sunglasses, pockmark, that guy.
Yeah, that guy, Tommy Lee Jones looking fella.
That Eduardo James Olmos looking guy. And he made the games with the boobs. That one.
That's right.
Yeah.
So when we talked about it, you educated me, and his start was actually on Tech Mobile.
Yeah.
That guy somehow was involved in Tech Mobile.
Yes.
And that was kind of a pretty cool little calling card because of the career that he would go on to have. So does this guy, Mr. 51, does he have anything like that?
He does in a major way, but I'm going to go out on a limb here and say probably not for you. But for me, massively. So, and that's a great segue. Thank you so much for it. And we'll get right into his body of work. So what he's almost infamous for. So he begins working on the Fire Pro Wrestling series of games, which are still going on to this day. And for wrestling nerds like me, they're the absolute gold standard of wrestling games. I kind of got on a little late to those. The first one that I ever bought was, I believe, the first one that ever came out in America officially, which was for the Game Boy Advance. And they made two of those in 2002 and 2003, I believe. But this series has been going on. It started on the Mega Drive, the Genesis, in 1989. Suda comes in. He works on Super Fire Pro 3 for the Super Famicom, Super Nintendo. And he's like a designer there, does a little bit of what they called scenario work, which is like the Japanese term for a writer. But he's made infamous because he does Super Fire Pro Wrestling Specials Scenario, which is like the sequel to 3, but not the full-blown sequel. It gets confusing, and I'll spare you on this. But right. So he makes this scenario, and this is like the perfect jumping off point for what this guy's all about.
What year are we in here?
This is 93, I believe. 94. 93 is the first time he does a Fire Pro game for Human Entertainment.
Right. So I have an idea about what video games look in
1993
sound like
perfect,
in that year.
Perfect. Keep that in your head.
Okay.
So in the story of Super Fire Pro, it does have a story mode, Super Fire Pro Special. The story mode, it's what's famous for is the ending. So this wrestler that you follow his whole career, at the end of the game, he's like, I've conquered every champion. I've climbed every hill. There's nothing left for me to do. I'm going to fucking kill myself. And so he commits suicide, and the game players and fans of Super Fire Pro at this time
I just finished playing Final Fantasy V. What should I follow that up with?
Oh, no. So this obviously, people were not expecting this at all. They weren't even expecting to have like an in-depth written story mode in a Fire Pro Wrestling game to begin with. Yeah. But like this guy like said, no, I'm a lifelong wrestling fan. I grew up being afraid of Bruiser Brody. Right. Like, this is something I want to do. He pitched the idea to Human, who made the Fire Pro series. They're no longer in business anymore. Human Entertainment. They also made Clock Tower, just to give you a little sample, just to give you a little sample of how much I love this shit. But they're like, yeah, go for it. Like, this is awesome. Like, we're not going to stand in your way. And that's a reoccurring theme of Suda 51. Not a lot of people stand in his way, which is why his stuff is so fucking excellent. Because he is able to make games on his terms.
Nobody stepped in and said, it's 1993, you're not ending this video game with a completed suicide? Yeah. Wait, so is that actually how the game ends? The dude actually kills himself?
Yep, he kills himself. And you don't see him like put a gun in his mouth or anything like that. Just, like, it's like very, very heavily implied that he kills himself.
So and then 15 years later, P.T. Anderson plays that game and then comes up with the wrestler.
Yeah, more or less. Darren Aronofsky.
Oh my God, I botched it! I botched my own joke.
It's fine.
Sorry.
It's fine. So, but a little sidebar. So Fire Pro Wrestling World, which is the most current one, it's on Steam and it's on PlayStation. As a DLC pack, they brought Suda 51 back to write a new story, and it's about it's about the son of the wrestler who fucking killed himself, and he's dealing with all this like, my dad's a piece of shit. Like he cared more about like wrestling, and he cared more about like being relieved of any other hills to climb, and so rather than be a father, he just fucking kills himself. Fuck that guy. So it's like more really gnarly heavy. Again,
how do I start playing?
Yeah, I will get you set up. I will get you set up on this path, and you'll be just fine.
Please tell me the end of that game involves the son then killing himself.
I will not spoil. That's a current game. It's a semi-current game. I will not spoil it, but what I will say is you won't be disappointed. Okay, so that's his start. He's with Human Entertainment until 1998 when Human goes bankrupt. So yeah, before we go, we've kind of already established like Suda's. He's famous for these complex stories that are very mature and very adult. Like everything that he does is very adult leaning. And in an era, too, where video games are still very much considered, certainly in America, but even in Japan a little bit, they're very much considered a medium for kids. And he has always had this vision of like, no, I'm an adult. I play video games. He was born in 1968. So he's like, a true, I think he's about the same age as Quentin Tarantino. So he's like a true Gen X. Like he grew up with this stuff. He had like a lousy childhood, and he's kind of always retreated into his brain and in his imagination. Yeah. And like this is like the fruit of his fucked up imagination. Is all this wonderful pile of stuff that is in front of me. So he's famous for all that stuff. And we mentioned he's also heavily influenced about U.S. pop culture. So I don't know if I mentioned this or not too. This is pretty fascinating. One of the jobs he had before a full-blown career in video games is that he was a fucking undertaker. Oh, he was an undertaker.
that shapes you as a person.
Yeah. So he has seen some shit in real life, and you go forward from there.
Well, okay, hold on. I have more questions.
Go for it, please. Ask away, friend.
This is the kind of crap that you would know. But what are your job responsibilities as an undertaker? This is not like 1860 anymore. So in 1990 or whenever he's doing this, like what are you embalming? You're not embalming, right?
So I can't speak with much intelligence or eloquence.
I want to know what this guy was doing with bodies. I want to know that.
I think if we can assume, because to be a mortician, you have to have education, you have to have a mortician's license, you have to do all that stuff. I believe, and I could certainly be wrong on this, and I'm only going on what I loosely know from, same as you, what an undertaker in America would be.
From what Paul Bearer has taught us.
Yeah, from what Percy Pringle, Paul Bearer has taught us about being an undertaker. First thing, get that voice as high as you can. That's first and foremost.
Oh, Brian, he's my favorite. God,
he's all of our.
Dude, he is my favorite. I miss him so much.
Well, there's not a day that goes by where I don't miss him just as hard as you do. Oh, I'm not a wrestler. I'm not a wrestler. He's the best. But anyway, I don't know what a Japanese undertaker's responsibilities are.
That's how it differs.
Or how it differs from a Western undertaker.
From Paul Bearer.
I think, but it's safe to assume that he is a guy who is around death, and he's around dead bodies in some form or fashion. Yeah. Whether or not he's like, sucking out organs and putting in cotton in horrible places, I don't know, but he's around death and doing death stuff. So that is a part of the package when it comes to Suda.
Okay. Wonder Mundo, please clip all of that. All of that's just gold. I want all of it.
You will. I trust that you will. Okay. So he goes from all the stuff at Human, the Fire Pro Wrestling stuff, and then he begins his next big game, which I have here. This is a silver case. This originally came out on PlayStation. It was translated and officially released in America in 2017 by Nippon Ichi Software, NIS. So if you're into this kind of stuff, you definitely know what that company is all about. So what the silver case is
the silver case.
Yeah, the silver case. It is a visual novel leaning adventure game, and a lot of the stuff that goes forward into his games. And here's another comparison to Quentin Tarantino. A lot of the characters and universes all intermix, and so like in Pulp Fiction, there's all these things that point to how it was in the same universe as Reservoir Dogs. Quentin's never come out and said like, yes, this is exactly what this is.
The Vega brothers and all that.
Exactly. But there's been threads that people tie, and I think purposefully, Quentin Tarantino's always he's kind of kept quiet about that. He wants the audience to infer their own stuff. Whereas Suda, what the difference is, no, this is these are the same people.
It's more explicit.
He's a lot more explicit in terms of like, you know, this guy started in this game and this happened to him in this game, and you know, fast forward to 10 years later, this is where he is in his life, that kind of thing. So the silver case, I never played it when it first came out, obviously, because like it came out at a time where I was way too poor to import video games, and the technology wasn't good enough for me to be able to burn them, and there wasn't any English patch stuff that like today.
What year are we talking about?
It came out in 1998 originally.
Okay,
on the PlayStation, and it's like a really cool mixed media type experience where it's so kind of like again visual novel but adventure game kind of mechanics.
Yeah. This is a type of, the way you describe it, a type of game that there's a lot of now.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And I've played some of them. Her Story was one, and then it was followed up by Lies, and that's like, it's a visual novel where you're trying to figure out a case.
Well, and Lies is the first person. I'm not first person, full motion video one, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
so,
actually, all of them are.
Okay. I am embarrassed to say I haven't played those games, and I need to because I love full motion video games. I'll just say that just blanketly in public so that we all know that. Now that that's out of the way, that game features a bunch of full motion video as well.
Okay. Yeah.
And at a time where full motion video was very much getting out of vogue. Like people who had made that stuff in the
Sega CD.
Exactly. Yeah. So mid 90s, it was all over. It was everywhere. And then the sales plummeted, certainly in the West. And like to make a game that had some full motion video components in the late 90s was kind of, again, Suda saying, no, I'm going to make what I want to make and you can go ahead and fuck off. Which I can't say how much I respect that stuff. So that game is, now here's the thing. We're going to have to cross a bridge here when it comes to, because I do think that you should play some of his stuff.
Well, this would be pretty high up on the list.
And it's a good place to start. The sequel, which I'll briefly touch on.
There's a sequel?
Yes, it's called The 25th Ward right there.
What are these games?
So the 25th Ward, all the subject matters, so my brain is exploding with excitement, so let me dial it back real quick. With Silver Case, the story is about this serial killer that needs to be caught because he is a serial killer, but the way in which he goes about getting victims and stuff is very ethereal, almost spiritual. I don't know if you're familiar with the Japanese movie Pulse, that's very, very famous and influential.
Not that famous. I haven't heard of it.
Yeah.
So if you're not on my
Peter
radar,
Jackson didn't make it, so fuck it, brother.
Is that a George Lucas joint? Because, I mean...
You're right, yeah. Do you do that after Howard the Duck? Or so anyway, this is the bridge that we need to cross. And this is another thing where like I totally understand it. Because sometimes this stuff annoys me, but I power through. So in order to enjoy... Not all of his games, because there are some of his stuff that becomes a little bit more less obtuse and more linear in terms of storytelling. But in these early games, there's these concepts that you'll find in a lot of Japanese art and Japanese media, like these concepts of human emotions materializing in the real world and doing damage. And you have to be able to suspend your disbelief and just go with it. Like, it's really difficult for us to do because we're not fucking Japanese, obviously. But this is stuff that they've told throughout, like myths, stories for like literally like 1,000 years. So it is difficult, and like that's a barrier of entry. If you can bust through that barrier, you're in for a real treat. But it is a barrier nonetheless.
So my sister put 150 hours, I think, into Persona 5.
Okay.
And I was like, hey, that's one of the highest rated games for that generation. Should I be checking that out? And she goes, look, you just have to be okay with Japan. Mm-hmm. If you're okay with like Japan and what they do, then you're going to have a good time. And that is what I'm thinking about now when you're telling me there's this bridge that you have to get through where your anger turns into a monster or whatever that's attacking you, I guess.
Yes.
I mean, I platinumed Heavy Rain, so I mean, I could put up with a lot when it comes to.
You can there are some leaps you can jump for sure. But I do think like a big example that I always go through. So I'm a huge fan of Takashi Miike, the director, and one of my favorite movies of all time ever is a movie called Ichi the Killer, and it's just like Suda 51 shit. It just oozes with style. It's so unique, but there's parts of the storytelling where like Miike does nothing to help you out. It's like, no, this is the vision. You need to be intelligent enough to kind of come along on this journey with me, and I'm not going to hold your hand at all. And if that's a problem for you, then you're not going to get into this stuff. If you're open-minded enough to be able to, at a minimum, just kind of accept that stuff, you don't necessarily have to be like all balls deep on it or anything like that, but you have to just be able to like be willing enough to be like, okay, I'll let these things happen.
Not balls deep.
Not balls deep.
Just the tip.
Just tip deep. Just get tip deep with it. So anyway, that's the caveat I'll say about some of his games. And we'll get into the ones that aren't so convoluted in a second. But so back to Silver Case. It's really good, very noirish, detective crime story about this serial killer. And this game is more video gamey than its sequel, 25th Ward. So I enjoyed 25th Ward because it gives a little bit of a resolution to the story established in Silver Case. Yeah. But make no mistake, friend, this is not a video game. This is a book with pictures, and it drags. Like it admittedly drags. For a sicko like me that loves this guy's work, it was kind of hard for me to finish along. There's stuff gameplay wise in this game that like it's just infuriating. Like where you have to like solve these puzzles that like really rely on you to paying attention to every little nitty gritty bit of written dialogue. And like you have to do math. Like you got to really work for it.
Well, but you told me on a previous episode that a lot of times when that happens, you'll just pull up GameFAQs.
100%.
And then just kind of walk. Did you do that with these?
Or the Silver Case, you don't need to. You can play. I really honestly love this game, and it
sounds ahead of its time, honestly.
And I think I really do think that you'll like this one. And you could probably get it on Steam today for like 99 cents. So, or you could just for free borrow mine. But I really think you'll like this game. I think you will absolutely shit on this one, and it's not even worth your time. And you're gonna get enough resolution from that one to where, unless you really, really surprise me and fall in love with that story and the characters there, and you kind of want to see where it goes, then you can party with this one a little bit. But to answer your question, you can't even use a walkthrough with this. Like it's literally like imagine getting a walkthrough for like reading a novel. That's what you're doing here. Yeah. You're just reading a novel, and then every once in a while you have to like solve a math equation, and it's not very good. But his style, Suda's style, all that stuff is here. For the real sickies out there, it's worth your time. But if you're just kind of discovering this guy, maybe circle back to it if you really, really dig it.
Well, if you don't interact too much, the platinum should be really easy on this one, right? I mean,
just go straight to Trophy Mountain every single time. Every single time. Okay, so I'm going to move on to one of my absolute favorites of his. And it goes, the characters in this, one of the main ones, his name is Sumio Mondo. The word Mondo appears in so much of his stuff. Suda 51 has this obsession with Mondo, and I think, this is me speculating here, because he is very much into, like, what's the term for this kind of stuff? But there's a documentary series called Mondo Kane that was like very much like Faces of Death in the 60s. Like it was way ahead of its time. It featured a lot of ethnography where like a guy, like there's a real famous scene in the original Mondo Kane where this dude who's like a shaman like sticks his hands in this like boiling vat of liquid and just burns the shit. And it's all real. Like it's all like cinema verite, like fucked up shit. I speculate because Suda and I have similar tastes. I think he gets the word Mondo from Mondo Kane, and then the term Mondo itself. Well, let's get a reaction to that.
I just the idea that you're like, what would I do if I was in that situation? What would inspire me? It's like, that must be what inspired him.
I'm going to make Killer 7. That's what he did. So anyway, Sumio Mondo, to get back on track, comes from the Silver Case, those two games, 25th Ward Silver Case. And this is a game where he kind of goes on vacation. It's called Flower, Sun, and Rain. And this was originally released on the PS2 in 2001 in Japan, which is like, that's really early in the PS2 like library.
First year, right?
Well, it came out in Japan in 2000. I think it came out here in 2000, the very end of 2000 here, and a few months earlier in Japan, if I remember right. But still, like, we're in that launch window.
Yeah.
And this was released. I gotta check my notes here. I think it was released in. Okay, I don't know who. Maybe ASCII published it in Japan. This one was done by Marvelous, which is a company that Suda 51 kind of established as a publishing wing. So I should have said this a while ago. He is the CEO of a company called Grasshopper Manufacture, which does its own development, but then it also contracts out other development as well. And now, today, Suda 51 is kind of more of like a Miyamoto type figure, where he like comes in, offers his input, but then like, unless it's one of his real specific projects that he's passionate about, he kind of lets the younger people do shit that is kind of within his wheelhouse.
Okay.
But this one was very much Suda, all on his own. It is so similar to the movie Groundhog Day. Let me paint you a picture here. So that's our guy on the cover there. That's Sumio Mondo, and he is what's called a searcher. And so he's hired by people, companies, what have you, to go and find stuff that is working very hard to not be found. Okay. So a detective, if you want, but like with more like fun, cinema carnage type connotations than just a straight detective. So he goes to this island in Micronesia called Las Paz. And he's like kind of on this vacation, but kind of working. There's a plane that he knows that there's a plane that's wired with explosives that's going to explode. And so he figures, hey, you know what? I'll double dip. I'll go down there, catch some sun, eat some wonderful local fare, and I'll solve this mystery and prevent an airplane from exploding. Well, he never prevents that airplane from exploding. He dies on the first day. And then he wakes back up in the same hotel room and does it over and over and over again. Oh. And what happens is so his main goal in the game is to defuse this bomb that's on this plane.
Yeah.
But a local person in the town, or either works for the resort or is just like a local that lives on the island, has this problem, and he's like so compelled to solve their problem that he gets distracted. And so he like does typical adventure game stuff to solve this character's problem, and then, oh shit, wouldn't you know it, I messed up and now I'm dead again. And so it's Groundhog Day because he just keeps reliving this stuff over and over, and the ending is the same every single time.
Okay, so, well, maybe you just gave it away, but the way that I would want the game to work, and you tell me if it's the actual way that it works, and it's probably not, is as you continue to play the game, you make smaller changes to get you closer and closer to the point where you could actually make the plane not blow up.
You, my good friend, are kind of right on the money there. That is how it goes. And each day, the end of the day, like something else will be revealed that gets you started on the next task on the next day.
So the semi-recently released game that got way too much hype, but it's still a pretty good game, Deathloop, is that exact premise.
Yep.
And now I know that Deathloop was inspired by Flower, Sun, and Rain.
Yeah.
So,
and well, that's the thing is like, we don't know that to be 100% sure, but Suda 51 is like a beloved enough figure in video games to where like that isn't that far of a leap. Like that very well could have been a thing that they were inspired.
I'm unaware of any other games that use that exact dynamic.
Well, the only thing that really I can think of, and anyone else would think of off the top of your head, is the Bill Murray movie Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
Well, which is a great movie and is highly influential and is still talked about. Like 32 years later.
There's like philosophy class. I had a couple days in my philosophy class in undergrad on Groundhog Day. It was really cool.
Yeah.
But that's a very
it's held in really, really high regard, and it's a great movie. But so anyway, I think in terms of video games, like that, Deathloop was probably inspired by this, and if someone somewhere, at least not consciously, maybe subconsciously, had heard about this game or whatever and made Deathloop. I tried Deathloop. Wasn't weird and Japanese enough for me to
well, it's also Deathloop has like a bunch of roguelike elements to it,
yeah.
and that's a turnoff for a lot of people. So
yeah,
it was fine. It was no Returnal. Returnal was the game of the year.
Oh,
Returnal was the game of the year for that year.
Yeah, Returnal was
not
way
Deathloop.
Better. Yeah, we agree 100% on that one. Not about it being the game of the year, but it being a far better game than Deathloop.
What?
I don't know, but let's talk about fucking Suda.
Okay, fine.
Okay, so this game. The way the mechanics of it are very like so it's like third-person adventure game, not a whole lot of action. When you meet these characters, and all of these characters are super unique and like very instantly memorable. But the way that you play the game is like you'll meet a new character, they give you the problem, then you have to solve it, and you have an in-game brochure, like a very much like travel brochure that's all about advertisement and marketing for the resort that you're staying at. And within the body of that document, you'll find the solution to every single one of these things. So part of the game is like this meta game of like trying to find almost like a Where's Waldo, like information and tidbits from this in-game brochure to use in the game and further its progress.
Do you have to, let's say there's 20 items in the brochure.
Yeah.
Do you have to actually get all 20 items to get to the game, or is it enough that like, if you get like 15, you're close enough that you can actually defuse the bomb?
Well, so like a lot of adventure games, like you can do some deduction on your own. And so you don't have, it's not like you absolutely have to rely on the brochure for some of these things, but then for other of these things, like, no, the answer is there. And part of the game is you reading that brochure and finding it. And to me, like I played this game in 2009 when it came out on the DS. I didn't play the original one. And like, I was already a fan of Suda by this point, but this game made me like fucking love this guy. And what's so funny is like this game, a lot of his games, but this one in particular has a really low review score. And we know my opinion on fucking reviews and how unnecessary
important they are to your life.
Oh, totally. But like this game I was hooked, and it's like, I would play this game every day until I beat it, like come home from work. And at the time I was working a lot of crazy ass hours, but I would be like coming home at like 1 a.m. and thinking like, I got to play more fucking Flower Sun Rain.
2002 you said?
No, 2009.
Oh, wait, sorry, I missed this.
The original came out in 2001,
okay.
PS2, Japanese exclusive. It was translated into English for the first time, released on the DS in 2009.
And then that's
when I played it.
All right. And do you remember the criticisms of the reviews and why they're wrong?
Well, yes, so going back to Kafka and like how he would focus on the mundane.
Yeah.
Like you're doing some mundane, and a lot of these games, you're doing some mundane shit. We'll get to No More Heroes in a second. But in Flower Sun Rain, like same thing. Like you're like, there's stuff that's intentionally boring, but there's like a humorous spin to it. And for a lot of people, they can't break through the boring part. Again, I understand. Like it's not for everybody.
But you can.
Well, because like I don't know, I'm fucking smart. I don't know how else to tell you.
I'm so smart. You got a game where we're washing dishes? Fine, I'll wash some fucking dishes.
I will play the fuck out of that game. No, but I do, like, honestly, and I don't care if this comes off, however this comes off, but like I think a lot of people's problems with obtuse storytelling, subversion, all those other things is like they just don't get it.
They don't get it.
Yeah. And like there's nothing you can do about that. Like you either you get it or you don't. And also too, to be totally fair, like there's nothing wrong with not getting it either. But like, and we've gone over this. Like I fucking love death metal. Like I don't like Whitney Houston. Other people think death metal sounds like noise, and they love Whitney Houston. So
nobody we know, but just like...
we know. No one's sitting here at the dais. So anyway, this game, I love this game. I think maybe you would be able to get something out of this. I know you would find the funny stuff funny because it's laugh out loud funny. Okay. And they did such a good job translating it.
But the mundane, I'm gonna have a problem.
The mundane, you might. But again, if you know what you're getting into and you know that's a part of it, and if you can derive, like, see the wickedness, see the sense of humor in something like that, of like, this asshole is making me do this stupid ass thing. I'm delivering lemonade to somebody, like something like that.
Okay.
If you can see why that's kind of a funny thing to do in a medium where there's Halo and like all this other blow up shit. Like there's a uniqueness and a sense of humor about that I really find endearing, and a lot of Suda fans also find it endearing.